Hi, my name is Graham Smith, and I'm one of the authors that helped develop the learning approach to mathematics that is found in our textbook as well as the video you are about to experience. To learn more about our approach to learning mathematics, visit the web address that accompanies this video. Now, enjoy the video. Percents, fractions, and decimals. This video will help you visualize a percent, convert a percent to a fraction or mixed number, convert a fraction or mixed number to a percent, and convert between a percent and a decimal. Visualize a percent. Let's start with some definitions. Per is a prefix that indicates division. The word cent means 100. So percent is used in place of the phrases per hundred or out of 100. Now let's take a look at some examples that will help you understand how to shade a percent of an object. Example 1. Shade 46% of a square. Well, 46%, we learned in the definitions that percent means out of 100. So 46% means 46 out of 100. So in my square over here, I actually have this square divided up into 100 different little boxes. So I just need to shade 46 of these 100 little boxes. Well, each of these rows is going to be 10 boxes. So I'll shade this row. There's 10, 20, 30, 40, and now I need to shade 6. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 46% of that square is shaded. Example 2. Shade 132% of a square. Well, if we're going to shade 132% of a square, it means we're going to shade 132 out of 100. Well, you can see that that's an improper fraction. So we are going to need more than one whole object to get this percent shaded. So over here I want to start with 100% of the boxes shaded, which means this first box I'm going to shade the whole thing. So I would shade this whole entire box. So there's 100%. Now I need to shade 32%. So there's 10, 20, 30, and now I just need 2. So there is 132% of this box or this square shaded. Now notice that 132% is more than one whole object. So we needed more than one box to shade that amount. Now it's time to check your understanding of shading a percent of an object. Hit pause on your video player and answer these guided practice questions. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 1. Shade 25% of a square. Well, the square is already divided up into 100 parts, so we need to shade 25 of these. So there's 10, 20, and then the next row I need 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there is 25% of that square is now shaded. Question 2. Shade 210% of the square. Well, we're going to start by shading the whole entire square. And so that would be 100%. If I shade this whole square, now I need to shade another whole square. There is 200% when I shade that whole square. And now I need 10%. So just one of these rows. So there is 210% of one square that's shaded. Convert a percent to a fraction or mixed number. You can see here we have this chart, and we've seen this chart now with both fractions, decimals, and now we're going to take a look at this chart again with percents. Percents, fractions, and decimals all are used to represent parts of a whole, so they can be interchanged. Taking a look at our first part here, we have the whole thing shaded. That is 100% or 1. Now if I take half of this thing, that can be written as a percent as 50%, as a fraction, that's 1/2, and as a decimal number, that's 0.50. Now if I divide this object up into 3 parts, I end up with a percent 33 1/3%. As a fraction, that's 1/3, and as a decimal, that's 0.3 repeating. if I divide this up into 4 equal parts, that is 25%, or as a fraction, 1/4, and as a decimal, 0.25. And finally, if I divide this object into 5 equal pieces, that is 20%, as a fraction, that's 1/5, and as a decimal number, that's 0.20. The topics that follow will involve converting between percents, fractions, and decimals. Most of these conversions can be performed using the fraction 1 over 100% or the fraction 100% over 1. We've already seen in several instances we'll need to multiply by a fraction that's equal to 1 or divide by a fraction that's equal to 1. When we're converting between percents, fractions, and decimals, we're going to use that same idea. To convert from a percent to a fraction, we are going to multiply by the fraction that's equal to 1 here, 1 over 100%. And what we do when we multiply by this fraction 1 over 100% is this fraction actually will divide out the percent symbol and convert our percent to a fraction. Now, if we want to convert a fraction to a percent, we're going to multiply by this fraction that's equal to 1. And you can see all we've done here is flip this fraction. Now we have 100% over 1. This is still a fraction equal to 1, but what will happen is if we multiply by this fraction, it will introduce the percent symbol and convert from a fraction to a percent. To convert a percent into a fraction or mixed number, we will multiply by the fraction 1 over 100% to divide out the percent symbol. Now let's take a look at some examples that will help you understand how to convert a percent to a fraction or mixed number. Example 3. Convert 45% to a fraction or mixed number. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by writing 45% as a fraction. And just like always when we write a whole number as a fraction, we're just going to write 45% over 1. Now what I want to do is I want to multiply here by a fraction that's equal to 1 that is going to divide out my percent symbol. Well, if I want my percent symbol to divide out, I need to put that percent symbol down in the bottom. Now I just want to make sure that this fraction is equal to 1. So I'm going to write 1 over 100%. 1 and 100% are equal in value, so that makes this fraction equal to 1. Now you can see that when I go to multiply these together, the percent symbols are going to divide right out, just like common factors. Now I don't have any percent symbols in my problem. I'm going to end up here when I get done multiplying with just a fraction. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to factor this. So looking across the numerators, I have 45 and 1. Well, let's factor 45. With 45, I'm thinking 9 times 5. Well, 9 is not prime, so I'm going to write that as 3 times 3, and then times 5. Times 1, I'm going to leave that factor out. Now let's go to the denominator. 1 times 100. Well, that's still going to give us 100. So I'm just going to factor 100 in the bottom. I'm thinking 4 times 25. 4 is not prime, so I'm going to write that as 2 times 2. 25 is also not prime, so I'm going to write that as 5 times 5. Now let's look for common factors. Looks like we have a common factor of 5 both in the numerator and denominator, so I'm going to divide that out, and let's see what I have left. When I multiply the numerators, I got 3 times 3, which is 9. Multiplying the denominator, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 5 is 20. So I get 9/20. So when I convert the percent, so when I convert 45% to a fraction, I get the fraction 9/20. Example 4. Convert 265% to a fraction or mixed number. Again, I'm going to start the same way. Write 265% over 1 so that I write it as a fraction. Now I'm going to want to multiply so that I divide out this percent symbol. So I need that percent symbol down in the bottom. And so I'm going to write this fraction that is 1 over 100%. And you'll notice again right away that the percent symbols are going to divide out. And it looks like I'm going to get 265 over 100. Now this is an improper fraction. We want to convert this improper fraction into a mixed number. So we would say 100 goes into 265 2 whole times. And that would be 200. So 65 is going to be a remainder. So we're going to write this as 2 and 65 over 100. Now, we need to simplify 65 over 100 because there are some common factors in there. So I'm going to come over here on some scratch work and simplify this. So I want to factor these out. So with 65, when I factor 65, I'm going to get 5 times 13. When I factor 100, again, I'm thinking 4 times 25. Well, 4 is 2 times 2. 25 is 5 times 5. So it looks like we're just going to be able to divide out the common factor of 5 there. That's going to be it. So when I write this mixed number in simplified form, it's going to be 2. And let's take a look over here at our scratch work again. In the numerator, I'm going to have 13. In the denominator, I have 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 times 5, which is 20. So when I convert 265% to a mixed number, I get the answer 2 13/20. Now it's time to check your understanding of converting a percent to a fraction or mixed number. Hit pause on your video player and answer these guided practice questions. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 3. Convert 52% to a fraction or mixed number. So we start by writing 52% as a fraction itself. We write it over 1. Okay. Now we're going to multiply by a fraction. We want to divide out that percent symbol. So I'm putting that in the bottom. So we're going to multiply by 1 over 100%. Okay, let's take a look. The percent symbols are going to divide out nicely for us. We're going to need to simplify this fraction, so let's go ahead and start by factoring. Well, 52, so when I factor 52, I'm thinking at first 2. So let's come over here on some scratch work and say 52, 2. Well, if I cut 52 in half, I'll end up with 26. And now I'm going to go ahead and break 26 down. That's going to be 2 times 13. So when I factor 52, I get 2 times 2 times 13. In the denominator, I'm going to have 100, and we've already factored that a couple times. That's going to be 4 times 25. Okay, taking a look now for common factors, it looks like I can divide a common factor of 2 and another common factor of 2. So I get 13 in the numerator, 25 in the denominator. So when we convert 52% to a fraction, we get the fraction 13/25. Question 4. Convert 315% to a fraction or mixed number. Start by writing it as a fraction. Put it over 1. We want to divide out that percent symbol. So we're going to get 1 over 100%. Percent symbols divide out nicely for us. And when we multiply, we get 315 over 100. Now that's an improper fraction. We need to convert that to a mixed number. So 100 goes into 315 3 times. Then it's going to have a remainder of 15, so that's going to be 15 over 100. And now we're going to need to simplify that 15 over 100. So let's come on some scratch work here and figure this out. Factoring 15, we get 3 times 5. Factoring 100, 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. Looks like a common factor of 5 gets divided out. And so our final mixed number is going to be 3, and in the numerator here, 3. And in the denominator, 2 times 2 is 4, times 5 is 20. So 3 3/20. Convert a fraction or mixed number into a percent. To convert a percent into a fraction or mixed number, we will multiply by the fraction 100% over 1 to introduce the percent symbol. Now let's take a look at some examples that will help you understand how to convert a fraction or mixed number into a percent. Example 5. Convert 7/20 to a percent. Well, what we're going to want to do with this fraction 7/20, we need to introduce the percent symbol. So we are going to multiply by the fraction 100% over 1. Now remember, when we multiply fractions, we're going to factor this out first and divide out the common factors. So in the numerator, I want to bring my percent symbol along. And now I'm going to factor across in the numerators. 7 is prime. 100 is not, and I'm thinking 4 times 25 with 100. Well, 4 is 2 times 2, and 25 is 5 times 5. In the denominator, I have 20, and I'm thinking 4 times 5. 4 is 2 times 2, 5 is prime, and I also have a 1 there. So let's take a look. What kind of common factors do we have? Common factors of 2, another common factor of 2, finally a common factor of 5. So it looks like we're going to get 35% in the numerator and 1 in the denominator. Well, anything over 1 is just that thing, so we get 35%. So when I convert 7/20ths to a percent, I get 35%. Example 6. We're going to convert the mixed number 3 1/5 to a percent. Well, we're going to multiply this 3 1/5 times a fraction. Remember that we don't multiply with mixed numbers. We rewrite those as improper fractions. So the first thing I want to do is write this 3 1/5 as an improper fraction. Remember, we work in a circle to do this. First we multiply. 5 times 3 is 15. Then we add. 15 plus 1 is 16. So this is actually 16/5. And so we are going to take this fraction, 16/5, and now we want to introduce the percent symbol. So we're going to multiply by 100% over 1. So let's take a look. Again, we're going to factor this out. Put the percent symbol in the numerator. 16, I'm thinking 4 times 4. So there's 4. There's the next 4. 100, same as before, 4 times 25. So there's 4. There's 25. In the denominator, I just have a factor of 5 and a 1. Let's take a look. Just a common factor of 5 that's going to divide out. So holy smokes, got to multiply all this stuff together here. So let's go from left to right. Here we have 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 again is 8, times 2 again is 16, times 2 again is 32, times 2 again is 64, and so then finally I have 64 times 5. So let's go off on some scratch work here. We're going to look at 64 times 5. 5 times 4 is 20, carry the 2. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 2 is 32. So we're going to get 320% over 1, which is just 320%. So when I convert 3 1/5 into a percent, I get 320%. Now it's time to check your understanding of converting a fraction or mixed number to a percent. Hit pause on your video player and answer these guided practice questions. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 5. Convert 3/25 to a percent. Well, we'll start with 3/25. We want to introduce the percent symbol, so we're going to multiply by 100% over 1. Let's factor this out. Percent symbol is going to stay in the numerator. 3, well, 100. I'm thinking 4 times 25. There's 4. There's 25. In the denominator, 25 is 5 times 5 times 1. Looks like common factors of 5 and another common factor of 5. So let's take a look. In the numerator, I have 3 times 2 is 6, times 2 again is 12, and then over 1, so it looks like I'm going to get 12% when I convert 3/25 into a percent. Question 6. Convert 6 2/5 to a percent. Well, again, first thing we want to do is we want to convert the 6 2/5 into an improper fraction. 5 times 6 is 30, plus 2 is 32, so that's actually going to be 32 over 5. And so then we want to take this 32 over 5 and multiply by 100% over 1 to introduce the percent symbol. Factoring this out, 32, I'm thinking 4 times 8. Well, there is 4, and with 8, I need 3 2's. So 1, 2, 3, there's 8. And then 100, again, 4 times 25, there's 4. There's 25, and in the denominator, just one factor of 5. So that factor of 5 divides out. Now we have to multiply all of this stuff left. And again, a bunch of 2's to multiply here. Going from left to right, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Times 2 again is 16. Times 2 again is 32. Times 2 again is 64. And now if I'm going to take 64 right there, I have 64 at this point. And notice the next two numbers I have are 2 times 5, which is 10. So I'm thinking 64 times 10, all that's going to do is add a 0 to 64, which will make it 640. So it looks like I get 640%. Convert between a percent and a decimal. To convert between a percent and a decimal, we're going to use a process that is very similar to the one that we used when we converted from percents to fractions. If we want to convert a percent to a decimal, we're starting with a percent. We need to divide that percent symbol out, so we are going to multiply by the fraction 1 over 100%. This divides out the percent symbol and will leave us with a decimal number. Now, if we want to go the other way around, decimal to percent, we want to introduce the percent symbol. So we are going to multiply by the fraction 100% over 1. This introduces the percent symbol and will convert us from decimal to percent. Now let's take a look at some examples that will help you understand how to convert between a percent and a decimal. Example 7. Convert 64% to a decimal. Well, we're starting with 64%. We want to get rid of that percent symbol to convert it to a decimal. So just like before, I'm going to write 64% as a fraction by writing it over 1. Now I want to divide that percent symbol out. So I'm going to multiply by 1 over 100%. And you can see my percent symbols dividing right out, which is then going to leave us with a decimal answer. So let's take a look. Normally we would factor this out, but what we have here is we have 64 divided by 100. Well, when we do division by 100, it's actually very easy to do. Division by 100 will move the decimal place 2 places to the left to make the number smaller. Well, the number 64 has the decimal over here on the right side. That's where it starts. Now, if I divide by 100, that's going to move it 2 places to the left to make this a smaller number. So if I came over 2 places, 1, 2, 64 divided by 100 is actually just going to give me 0.64. And so I've converted 64% to a decimal, and when I get done, I get the decimal number 0.64. Example 8. Convert 4.57 to a percent. Well, now you can see here we're starting out with a decimal number, 4.57. I'm going to write it as a fraction by putting it over 1. Now here I want to introduce the percent symbol. To introduce the percent symbol, I'm going to put it in the numerator. So now I'm going to have 100% over 1. Now let's take a look. The denominators are really easy. 1 times 1 is going to give us 1. Now multiplying by 100 is just as easy as dividing by 100. If I multiply by 100, I'm going to make this number 4.57 a bigger number. And in fact, multiplying by 100, all that does is move the decimal 2 places to the right. So I'm going to take this decimal, it's going to come over 2 places to the right, and that's going to give me 457% over 1, which is just equal to 457%. Now it's time to check your understanding of converting a percent to a decimal or a decimal to a percent. Hit pause on your video player and answer these guided practice questions. When you're done, hit play to see how you did. Question 7. Convert 126% to a decimal. Start by writing it as a fraction, 126% over 1. Now, here we want to divide that percent symbol out, so we end up with a decimal answer. So we are going to multiply by the fraction 1 over 100%. You can see the percent symbols are going to divide out for us, just like a common factor, and we're left with 126 over 100. Dividing by 100 is just going to move the decimal 2 places to the left to make this a smaller number. So with 126, the decimal starts at the right. We're going to move it 2 places to the left. So we're going to get the decimal number 1.26. Question 8. Convert 0.003 to a percent. Well, again, we're going to start by writing this 0.003 as a fraction by putting it over 1. Now here we want to introduce the percent symbol. So we're going to multiply by 100% over 1. So let's take a look here. We're left with our percent symbol in the top. Multiplying by 100, that's going to move the decimal 2 places to the right to make a larger number. So if I take this 0.003, move the decimal 2 places to the right, I'm going to end up with 0.3. So I have here 0.3%, and that's over 1, and so that is just equal to 0.3%. If you found this video helpful, I encourage you to check out our other videos that we have on YouTube, or visit the web address that accompanies this video to learn more about our approach to learning mathematics.